Welcome to the Free Play Arcade Podcast. It is Chris Delp. I am here, as always, with Free Play President Corey Hayden.
What's up, guys?
And I don't really need to introduce him, but I will. The superstar, DJ Terminator Mike B himself, and off-brand Pac-Man champion, Michael Beltran.
That's Pac-Land, sir. Hello, everyone. How are y'all doing?
All right, so we're here today. Y'all just got back into town from last weekend. You went to Texas Showdown. I guess let's start there. Let's talk about it. First, what is Texas Showdown?
Texas Showdown is a giant Windjammers tournament that takes place in Houston, Texas every year. About 10 to 15 of us went out there. I don't know the exact number, 10-ish. We all rented a house to listen to DJ Terminator Mike B party in. And played some Windjammers. Did pretty well, too. Jeremy Withers, our guest last week, picked up 5th place in the Windjammers tournament.
Nice. Windjammers is an awesome game. It's kind of weird. We've never been able to build any kind of audience here in Dallas for it. We get the request every once in a while. We'll throw it in the Neo Geo, and by the next day or two, no one's even playing it. It's an awesome game, though.
We'll work on it.
All right, so Texas Showdown, it's a fighting game tournament.
There were fighting
series.
games on the side, yes.
What's the setup like? Is it at a ballroom, hotel? What do they do? How do they do it?
You want to hit it?
Yeah, it is at a Hilton hotel down there in Houston.
Hilton Post Oak.
Hilton Post Oak, yes, that one. And they rent out a gigantic ballroom and just throw a bunch of setups and a huge stage with big screens and projectors and staging and just all kinds of people cram the place. It's really cool scene right there.
So I just pulled up the game list. So I guess in terms of bigger games to smaller games, is it mainly like the modern fighters take the big prizes? Are they big?
Yeah, sponsored. It's a typical fighting game major: Tekken 7, Street Fighter 5, Dragon Ball Fighter Z. That sort of thing.
Tekken 7's been struggling in the tournament scene lately too. How many?
It's got the corporate sponsorship. So Namco's pushing that one, and
Right.
Capcom's pushing Street Fighter 5, and the players are pushing Dragon Ball Fighter Z.
Yeah, that is the most popular fighting game on the planet right now.
Right.
And it still is, and it doesn't look like anyone's gonna touch that for a long time. More active players than just about anyone ever. Since you've been tracking online stats.
Yeah. I can report that the number 4 most attended and participated in tournament of Texas Showdown was Super Turbo.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So if you've been watching this podcast or you know anything about Free Play or you've been to Free Play, you know we love Street Fighter 2 Super Turbo, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. We just recently ran a big, huge tournament, had all these travel players come in from Japan, and it is definitely seeing a rebirth. So that's really cool. How much does it cost to play in Texas Showdown?
Do you remember, Mike?
There is a venue fee. It was $55. And then after that, depending on what game it was that you wanted to enter, it's around about $10 per game.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of prizes were up for grabs for the big games?
Oh, man, I don't
The
even
corporate
know.
sponsor games. Do y'all know?
I really don't know that one, actually.
Did either of y'all play Street Fighter 5, Tekken 7, Dragon Ball Fighter Z?
I'm a Japan exclusive player of Tekken 7, so
Nice.
I went and looked and, nodded my head and kept moving.
So that
we're
exists.
just not motivated by the prize money. I mean, one
Right.
person's gonna win.
Well, yeah, I guess that's the thing.
It might
If
even
you're
be
not-
me,
if-
and I don't
If
care.
you're not a specialist on the game, and that's
If
one.
the game is fun, I want to play. So I entered
Right.
Windjammers. I entered Third Strike. I entered Super Turbo. I did not enter Street Fighter 5. Sorry.
Well, it's Street Fighter 5 has seen its player counts dropping, and though Capcom is still supporting it, it's kind of it's going to be interesting to see how this year goes for it. They have a whole new season, I guess they call it, where you release new characters and stuff. It's something kind of foreign to us arcade players because we've had Super Turbo in its exact state since it came out. The end.
Right.
That was it. And you get to learn and love it. They never rebalance the characters or anything. That is the game. But that's what's actually great about Super Turbo, right? It came out and it was pretty well balanced. There are specialists with each characters that can beat almost anyone in the world. I mean,
Yeah.
I know there are tier lists and everything, but still, it's a relatively balanced especially for a game that was.
It's got an
released
unusual type of balance where like Sagat tends to lose to Dalsum, except for certain tournaments recently, and then Dalsum has trouble with Claw, and
Right.
Claw has trouble with nobody. But there's some Honda is really good if you don't have a fireball. If you do have a fireball, Honda has a almost impossible time to get in.
Right.
So there's a paper rock scissors-esque balance to the game, but it means you can see almost anybody, including a Cammy player, win a Texas Showdown.
Right. Well, and that's you get to see changes to like in a round when you switch your character to, that happens a lot. A lot of people have good
Counter picks.
Yeah, good 2 or 3 different characters that they've kind of mastered. They have their primary, but there's a lot of secondary play in Super Turbo.
Yeah, I can play around with T-Hawk as well as Dalsum. I'm not keen on it, but I can switch to Honda. I did in Canada. Mike has Sagat and Old Sagat.
It's the same character, if you ask me.
So, I'm going through the Texas Showdown game list. They had like every modern fighter. Mm-hmm. I mean, they were still running King of Fighters. What is it? 14? Jeez. MVC Infinite.
That's
not Killer Instinct Arcade.
Right.
I know what you're thinking.
The recent-ish released Killer Instinct Modern. Injustice 2, Guilty Gear, XX, Round 2, whatever that's... I don't actually know what these are called. Street Fighter... Again, arcade guy. Street Fighter 5, Tekken 7, Dragon Ball FighterZ. So they probably had a pretty nice crowd. I mean, running a major tournament with every modern game is going to get a lot of players out.
They had a sweet setup stage, big projectors. Alex Vai was in there trying to seek that Michael Beltran autograph again.
Oh, my God.
So, and then I scroll down, and the last 5 games listed are where I get interested.
Yeah.
We've got Super Turbo, Third Strike, CVS 2, Vampire Savior. That's awesome.
Fun.
And did y'all play Vampire Savior?
I did not. I was doing a lot. I didn't mean to slide it. There was a lot of cool games there.
Right, and then Windjammers.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on there. I mean, it was definitely hard to try to keep up with all the other tournaments happening around you.
Well, and they had other, it was all, there were no arcade machines there. They were all super guns. But that being said, people were bringing in their own super guns with like, check out this classic arcade game. Like someone, Tony, one of our traveling competitors, spotted Tekken Tag and like practically dragged me away from Super Turbo. Like, you gotta play this.
And you've of course never played Tekken Tag in your life, so that was a big moment.
I got a lucky 20 straight ones.
Yeah, Chris is notoriously good at Tekken. Okay,
Tag, not 5DR.
Right. So they've how did the event go though? How were the tournaments well run? Did y'all have a good time? What do you think?
Yeah, good time, yes.
Look, I know we're friends with these guys, but we can be honest if there were some issues or.
Yeah, I mean, they tried out a team tournament. It was just a first year experiment. There were some occasional TO issues like reporting scores and whatnot, where there's some confusion about the rules.
Gotcha.
Again, it's their first time trying a team tournament, which I do like the format enough that we've done all of our Tuesday night fights that are capable of holding it in 2v2 teams.
Right, yeah, which is a great way to balance the skill levels, right?
Yes.
You can pair...
And for us, it's a great way to introduce new players to the game.
You can pair a novice with someone who's played it quite a bit, and then there's some balance there. The novice has a chance to win something.
Right. Yes.
It's great.
Second day, they cut it into pools, but they ran the pools all at the exact same time, so it ended up being a little odd because you have pools happening simultaneously in the same place. So it's kind of like why are you doing pools? The only result of that is double jeopardy, where you get eliminated by the same person that put you in the losers bracket. Happen in literally every one of the pools, which
I see.
which makes sense. If it has to happen, it has to happen. But usually, the reason you would run a pool is because you're competing over the entire course of the day. Maybe even in different parts of the building. And then you want to, over here, you're running this pool, over here, you're running that pool. You show up at 7, you show up at 2. We'll get this all done. In this case, it's all at the same time in the same place. So it's very arbitrary that we're running pools and then everybody's hitting double jeopardy. Towards the end of the tournament, after I was eliminated, they actually came to me and asked me to do the running of the tournament. So I got us out of there on time.
So yeah, Chris, who just ran the big Spring Series $5,000 Super Turbo Ultra Travel Player tournament, I could see why they turned to you. So how did Team Free Play do at Super Turbo?
One of us got up on stage. Well, one of us got up on stage as a player. One of us got up on stage as providing the equipment, and Mike's.
Okay, yeah. So tell me about this. I've heard a story. I haven't actually heard the full story. So,
here we go.
Well,
so
first of all,
how did you? So
wait, why did us arcade heads bring super guns?
So yeah, all right. So first of all, why did y'all bring super guns?
Well, the reason why we brought it was just so we could just play at the house that we rented.
So did y'all bring your own TVs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
well, that's what I was wondering, because
Yeah.
you have to bring a TV, right?
Yeah, I couldn't stuff a Versus City in a Yaris,
Right.
but I would have.
Uh-oh.
But no, I brought a super gun. Mike brought his. That's why we had them.
So, what happened here? So I've been told Michael Beltran single-handedly
God.
swooped in and saved the day.
Well, first he saved Third Strike.
Made everyone's year. It was like, so let's talk. How did he do this? How did you pull this off?
There is the real story, which is what I'm about to tell, and then there's the everyone else's story that's probably been spread around. Thanks, Haas and Chris, for that
Truth.
one. You know, but basically, a week leading into Texas Showdown, one of my buddies, Jesse, who's friends with Javi, the whole head honcho of Texas Showdown, just asked me, hey, I told Javi about your super gun, and
Hi, Javi.
we're gonna have a Third Strike, and we could use your setup. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll bring it. I mean, I was planning on bringing it anyway, so yeah, no big deal. I said, and they will have a Third Strike board. I said, okay.
Oh yeah,
That
makes it easy.
because I don't have it.
Well, and
you know?
Third Strike is notoriously difficult to keep running, and it has a suicide feature.
Does it have suicide as well?
Yeah, it has the worst suicide too, because the battery can only be, and they've cracked it now. They're working on it. They've made some progress, but it's still kind of emulation how they're fixing it. But you have to live solder, so you have to have the game on when you change the battery.
Oh my God.
It's something that even the techs at Free Play are terrified of doing, because you're soldering something that has electricity running through it so that you can change the battery. Because otherwise, if you take the battery off and just change it while the game is off, boom, you've bricked the whole board.
Right.
And so there's actually a lot of stories back in the day of a battery getting loose, or a battery having an issue, or a battery failing like mid-tournament. And that is it. It nuked the board. And these Third Strike boards are not super. I mean, Free Play is fortunate enough to have quite a few, and we were able to have them in our different arcades and run them. But there's stories that just the tournament was over because the board bricked and they couldn't find another board. So they're providing the board. So you brought a super gun for that.
Yes, I brought a super gun for that.
And we should probably take a quick step back. A super gun is
Consoleized version of an arcade.
Yeah, is a consoleized version of an arcade
Yeah,
machine.
they've torn out the pieces of an arcade machine and made it into a smaller version.
Right. It converts the signal that would be going to the monitor or that would be receiving from the joysticks, and puts it all in one nice compact box.
Yes.
And that is a super gun. You can play arcade games on a TV. Real arcade games.
CRT TV.
Yeah, on a CRT. And so I brought it, and the particular one I have, apparently they all loved it. They said it was, one guy even called it the Cadillac of super guns, because he has the exact same one. It's a Jason's Customs super gun, and from what I understand, he doesn't even build them anymore.
Wow.
That type of thing. So I brought it, and they had 3 setups. No. Yeah, they had 3 setups going on it, and they were having trouble with the third. And some of the people there, they didn't know I was bringing mine for Third Strike. So I had it, and I told, hey, here it is. And then I was like, oh, great. We're having trouble with this other one here. So here, all right, well, we'll set it up. And
Tell me Chris offered you cash on the spot for it.
no, he didn't.
How much cash would he have had to have offered you?
I don't know. But that same story could have been told in reverse last year for one of his. But that's for another day. Hi, Chris. But anyhow, okay, so I'm setting it up, and then here comes this other Third Strike board that somebody there had. And it's funny how you were talking about how batteries and stuff like that. Well, this one here, I don't know who owned it or whatever the case may be, but on top of the cartridge that's on the board, it said something like, there was a sticker on it that says something special ROM something. It was weird. It was something like, what is this? And
Right.
I was even afraid of plugging it in. I was like, I don't even know what's happening here. And it was like it was hacked in some way, so that it didn't need a certain whatever. I don't know.
It's a dark soft mod is primarily what's going on right now with Third Strike. They can resurrect it, and for a long time everyone was thinking it was simply running decrypted code, because that's the key to the reason it's bricked is it loses the ability to unencrypt the encrypted code, because arcade operators were terrified of people stealing their stuff. And so what Darksoft has done is this very complicated, for Third Strike, a very complicated mod using slight emulation to trick the game into running unencrypted code, which, because the encryption was broken and they don't, but it is actually a modded board. It requires different changes to the board, and then it removes all sorts of other checks and balances. And the concern there, of course, is there might be a Darksoft that's playing as close to the original game code as possible, but you can also do all sorts of other stuff. Like once you're not playing the real thing, it starts to really introduce some questions to the
I've seen Super Turbo mods that are similar
to the legitimacy of the game. All right, so picking back up.
Okay, picking back up. So I'm setting it up, and then the third setup that
I thought it was really odd when he was playing Sagat in Third Strike.
Oh man,
very strange.
Yeah, I would have won it. But on the third, so while I'm setting up mine, okay, with that other board, the third setup next to me, they were just having trouble over there getting. They had a PVM, and they didn't have the right cables and all these things, and basically, and I think this is probably where the this fabricated story of me saving Texas Showdown,
aka the truth.
Yes. But this whole story myth that I saved the whole thing was basically they needed a couple of cables for that other super gun setup to work on that PVM, and they didn't have it. And me being everything extra, like spare parts and stuff like that, in my little bag, I open it up. So, oh yeah, here's a cord. Use that.
You had the adapter cable.
I had the
plug it right in.
Exactly. I had a couple of different S-video cables extra, and RGB cable extra, which is what they ended up using, and then boom, their third setup started working along with my fourth setup. So then basically I shaved 3 hours off of their tournament, which would have been which I don't know how many entrants they had, but they had two setups actively working at the time, and then with my cables and super gun setup, they ended up having 4.
That's kind of interesting. It sounds, just the bad thought that just went through my head is how easy life would be running a non-arcade tournament, because
it's much easier.
Right,
it's much easier. It's a very consistent setup.
TVs and super guns. So so obviously with a super gun, you bring your own controller, you plug it in. Did y'all see any issues with that? People not getting their controllers to work, or were there any house controllers? How do they handle that?
Were there house controllers? There probably were. I don't know.
Well, people were sharing controllers.
Yeah,
people were sharing sticks. Hey, can I use your stick? Yeah, sure. Here it is, and they'd use it, whatever. For the super guns that were used, mine and the one Chris has for the Super Turbo, the undammed super guns, they have the undammed decoder in them for the the USB joystick, stuff like that.
In this case, he's talking Chris Wong, owner of Starcade, and not me.
Yes, not Chris, not this Chris, but for most of the time, to get your gun to work, if it's not working, as you plug it into the super gun, your joystick, you have to hold the top 3 buttons down. Wait for the little green light to flash. Then you can program your buttons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then boom, you're off and running. Ironically enough, there was one person who could not get his stick working correctly on my super gun the entire time, and that happened to be what's his name?
I don't know.
Not you. Not you. The guy.
Where was he from?
The guy that I took a picture with. What was his name?
Justin Wong?
Yeah, that guy.
Oh, wow. He couldn't get his stick working.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, that guy.
Sorry. Secondary fighting game celebrity Justin Wong.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, he
did get to meet you, though, which was nice. Nice for him.
Shut up.
I have proof.
So, did he? What all did Justin Wong enter? I mean, so Justin
Wong enters everything. He's a trooper, man. He entered Street Fighter V and I think Dragon Ball FighterZ and also Super Turbo and Third Strike. Probably some other things I don't know. And he does well in everything.
So walk me through the Super Turbo tournament a little bit.
44 competitors.
And that was the biggest?
Fourth of the whole
okay. Gotcha.
thing, yeah. 4 pools, all run concurrently. Let's see, what else? I was in the first pool. 10 of them were us. We're travelers from Dallas. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think without us, it probably would have been a lot lower, on the totem pole as far as total entrance.
That's how we roll.
How did the pool? Did you say? So you said there were 4 pools. Did they use pools for Super Turbo?
They used them technically, but they're all at the same time. So it was
right.
an awkward like foundation for a tournament. Streamed the whole thing thanks to, once again, Michael Beltran's Super Gun. It has a voltage meter that allows like the direct feed to get enough power to work, whereas Super Guns are usually underpowered.
Right.
Yeah, apparently they loved it for streaming and things like that. I mean, it has a S-video output and RGB and RCA outputs on it. So
we did all right. Nate made it on stage. He made it into the top 8. Top 8 qualified and got to go on stage for the finals the next day. My tournament experience was just sort of like trying to get used to not playing on the arcade.
Right.
It's close because you're using an arcade stick, but it just, you play on whether it's the Big Blues or the Blast Cities, you have a mounted joystick.
Right.
And it's just different than having it in your lap or having it on a chair in front of you or having it on Mike B's rickety stand or having it upside down, whatever it is that's your preference. There was a pad player,
nice.
Enforcer from Oklahoma, who made it out to our Super Turbo tournament as well. He plays very, very well on a pad, and he's a trooper. He's not afraid to play on the arcade, even though he knows he's not quite where he is on the pad.
Yeah, PS3 pad is that. Yeah,
just what he likes. That's interesting. Okay, so how did top 8 go?
Top 8. Let's see. It was Nate, Justin Wong, and C. Vital.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Pup. That was his name that time. and then Silent Scope 88, the Cammy player, the best Cammy player in the nation. Worst character in the game, Cammy.
Generally agreed to be.
So definitely lowest tier.
But just garbage character of the game. But
he's phenomenal with
right,
her. And he was able to stave off a few just press a button and eliminate him moments. So he got a little bit lucky, but you need a little bit of luck in one of these tournaments as well. And he is so the real deal. He touches you one time, and suddenly 7 more hits happen, and you find yourself looking at round 2.
So
he got the job. He
won.
He got the job done.
Who was second?
Second place was Pup from Carlos Vital from Houston, who came to our Super Turbo tournament as well. A Dalsum / Chun-Li player. It's the other way around, actually. He mains Chun-Li. He defeated Justin Wong, who's very solid fundamentals with his Sagat. A very simple game plan. Throws tiger shots and throws uppercuts. Doesn't have the complex game plan of Michael Beltran, but he does what works.
And Justin Wong, he became famous for MVC2, right?
I would say he's most famous for that and Evo Moment 37. Like
right.
he's that guy as well.
Right. So
Beltran doesn't know him yet. So that's what he's famous for.
He travels.
He's that guy.
And Justin Wong is as close. I mean, it's kind of sad given the level of popularity of the fighting games that the prize pools are where they are. And that there hasn't been an outpouring of sponsorship dollars to go into fighting games, really.
Starting to change.
It is. But I mean, like Justin Wong has been around forever, and he's a professional player.
Yeah, he is. He's Echo Fox is his team. Rick Fox's team.
He is like.
I'm not kidding, Mike.
Yeah,
I'm not kidding. Rick Fox. Yes, that Rick Fox sponsors him.
That no way.
Yes.
So
the one you've booed many, many, many times in your Sagat uniform watching the Mavericks play.
No wonder his super gun didn't work. I mean, his joystick didn't work with my super gun. Awesome.
So we send 10 players. Generally, that's that's probably the biggest fighting game happening in the state. Is that true?
I'm sorry, the
Texas Showdown.
So 10 of y'all win. Yes, that's the biggest one.
That's kind of like the biggest fighting game.
Yeah, that's the biggest
expo. Yeah. Of the year. Did y'all stick around? Did y'all watch any of the other tournaments that were the bigger ones?
So they had us in a closet last year. They had us in the very, very corner, being banged into.
You're talking about the retro tournaments.
Yeah, Super Turbo specifically, because we went in 2017 when we were absolute noobs, and we played as much as we could, and then we went out and got drunk with Nick later.
Nice.
But he wasn't there this year. There was 4 super guns, and they had us in a separate room, and they had like a whole retro super gun setup room that stayed up until 4 a.m. So we kind of wasted all of our time playing arcade games.
So y'all just played games.
We played different arcade games. Captain Vi came and played Alpha 2 on Mike B's projector, and
yeah, I fell asleep like at some point around 3 a.m. I wake up and he's still playing. It's like, man, this guy's going.
So yeah, I guess that's what's nice about Texas Showdown though would be it is an opportunity to try to get to expand these retro games because you have all of the modern stuff there.
Yeah.
Did you see any of that? Did you see any crossover players?
Yes.
And I kind of wonder though if it's a little bit more difficult because you've got all these PS4 players and everything. I guess most tournament PS4 players are using sticks now, right, and not controllers. I don't know. Is it evenly split?
Think so. I think they're using
because
sticks
I know
mainly,
because the only major Street Fighter V tournament I ever even really watched was in Boston when Red Bull did their thing, and the final 2 or the final 4 were all controller players. So I didn't really know. I thought it was really interesting because I thought most people had gone to fight sticks.
Yeah, some people can use pad controllers very well.
Yeah.
But a lot of the players have respect for Street Fighter 2 and the roots of the game because there's still the same iconic characters and the mostly the same moves as well. So you know where it came from and it's a fast paced game. Like there's no you win or lose based on your own merits when you play Street Fighter 2. You don't press down forward and get a Shoryuken like you do in Street Fighter 5.
Right.
You have to do the motion as it is printed on Mike's shirt.
Right. So really quick question. I'm looking at the game list still. What the heck is Under Night in Birth? I've never heard of this game.
No idea. Looks like an anime fighter. Maybe like a Guilty Gear.
Anyone? Do you know?
Guessing.
Don't they have those at Parkland?
Wow. Jeez.
Wow. Dark joke.
So, what do you think their total attendance was? Wait, what would you guess?
Ooh, man, that's good 1,000 maybe. I don't know. It was packed the entire weekend. I mean, there's just people everywhere inside that building. I mean,
do they have? So is
not as many as Let's Play.
It's $55 to play. Do they have a spectator pass or?
Yes, $30.
Yeah, $30 to just go.
There were a few that paid that.
Yeah. So was your spectator pass? That kind of let you get to like the kind of the bonus setups and stuff and still play.
Yeah, you could play on the casuals.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Did they have a ton of PS4 casual setups?
They did.
Yeah.
They had multiple setups.
Just by the nature of a tournament, when you're running any kind of tournament, the first round or two, you need a ton of machines because there's just tons of players. You need to get those games done as quickly as possible so you can start eliminating players, and then it becomes more manageable as you move along. Well, at that point, you just have a boatload of setups that are extra, and sure, why not play? Yeah. In fact, that's why we travel to these tournaments. It's not really to win the tournaments. It's not to like the glory and all things. That's all nice, but we're here to play casuals and play as much as we can with these special guests that we never get to. I want to play against Silent Scope, even if he's playing a little T-Hawk on the side, and talk to him again. Justin Wong wants to play with Michael Beltran when he can.
Oh my God.
Well, he can't use his stick on his.
Yeah, he can't use his stick.
Right.
It was
No, it did. Yeah, it didn't work on yours. Did you guys go to another machine? No, he borrowed a stick, right?
He borrowed.
Yeah. Well, I
know he borrowed Jesse's on stage, and then he borrowed someone else's while he was, in the pool setting, I think. But I think because there was such a panic on him being who he is and his stick not working, I think everyone just freaked out and didn't really take the time to thoroughly troubleshoot why it wasn't working.
Oh, they forgot to plug it in.
Yeah. So I think. Had I probably had a chance to actually troubleshoot and look at it, I was like, here, this is how it's supposed to be, but that didn't happen.
So Under Night in Birth it's a fighting game by French Bread, which is a Japanese publishing company, and it is kind of like an anime fighter. It looks really cool, actually. I've never heard of it though. That's interesting.
I can't say I have either. But then again, I spend most of my time in an arcade playing.
Yeah, just true.
Everything.
Yeah, so that
including Windjammers.
That to me would be kind of. I mean, to me it would be fun, but it would be kind of a bummer not having the arcades there. Like, it
was
like, think about how cool it would be if you had the same setups, but you, instead of walking into a room of TVs and Super Gun setups, it was just a line of arcade.
Well, I mean, it was awkward for some of us that cut our teeth and play on arcade machines. You know, certainly all of us, we're used to playing on arcade setups, and look, that's as good as you could possibly get and not have an arcade machine.
Right.
I do understand why they do what they do, but you know, for us old school guys, you know, Jesse was having to like have your mounted stand to play. Nate was having the same issue. He put his on a chair. I played with like 3 different setups, just trying to get as close as I could to an arcade like feel. Yeah, it's I don't besmirch them, but you know, it's
yeah, it's not the same. My wobbly stand was definitely a $15 Walmart special.
I saw execution for execution errors for both the players in the top 8 who used the wobbly stand, which again, we're doing the best we can, trying to set up an arcade setup as much as we can. We can't like mount it on the stage.
Yeah, I don't think there's probably only like 10 total candy cabs in all of Houston, so it would be. I mean,
probably right.
I mean that might even be generous.
Austin has quite a few.
Austin does. I mean, because Arcade UFO is there, and they've brought in quite a few. And they recently, some of the Arcade UFO people recently came to Free Play. Actually, that was pretty cool because they were just like, you could tell they were like, how many more of these candies are you gonna add? And I was like, I don't know, guys. And they were just, I couldn't tell if they were like, they didn't want me to because that was like theirs, or if they wanted me to because they just love them. I don't know. But they were definitely impressed. I mean, it's amazing how it changes, right? Like that first time you come to Free Play, it's everything works, and you're just happy you get to actually play these games. And then once you become a regular, you just expect it. It's like, it's so interesting how you get dulled to what it is and what it isn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, how many posts do we see in the community group by other people venturing off and seeing a random arcade game or pinball table at another place, whether it be an arcade or not, and they're not working, and they say, "Man, this isn't working" or something, and
right, it's almost shocking.
I remember touring the country playing in these arcade game tournaments in the late 90s, early 2000s, and yeah, you would roll. It was just sort of part of being a tournament player, is having to deal with like, well, this stick won't go to the right, and you have to somehow win anyway.
Right.
Like, all right.
Well, yeah, you don't have your medium punch on this side,
yeah,
but good luck.
Yeah,
that's
exactly. And yeah, so everybody's fighting over the left side because that's the one that functions. And yeah, you have to figure out a way to win anyway. That's why I sort of like casually like will dip into challenge matches where I'm not looking or I use one hand or whatever, because I literally had to compete this way.
You've done that before. All right, so that was Texas Showdown. 10 free. Yeah, I assume y'all were all in your Free Play shirts and everything.
Every one of us.
Everyone
knew. We had the Free Play. Well, actually, okay, so we got the Free Play shirts on stage and quite a lot of exposure due to Nate actually making the top 8. But because they used his super gun for the stream setup, again because of his voltage thing, they had us there at like midnight, 1 in the morning, setting up, like getting the tournament all set up the day before so that they were ready to go and stream the next day. That meant we just had the stage to ourselves. We had the Free Play shirt put up. We had the Sagat losing toy right there. We had Beltran on stage just losing over and over and over again.
Oh my god!
So yeah,
it's so much fun though. Well, Big Blue was there.
It's really great though, because this is how we grow a community, right?
It is.
It's when y'all go.
That's the special parts when you're playing those casuals.
Identifies that y'all are, from that Free Play arcade up in DFW.
They all know.
And then that's what brings them back to our tournaments.
They all know. In fact, I met a player out in Houston, from Houston, who was just getting into Super Turbo, who was excited about Free Play Arcade, had talked to me before. I helped that player out with a few strategies, and now, I hear that monthly that they're going to make the sabbatical here.
Nice.
Which is incredibly flattering, and a story I've heard before. We have a player that comes in from Kansas, we have others that come in from Austin. It's really flattering, and you're right. Like Free Play Arcade, the word is getting out there, what we're doing, especially for the Super Turbo community.
Yeah, I definitely like it when somebody casually is playing against us at the arcade, and I'll chat with them. Oh yeah, you play, or yeah, I used to play this and that, and then the flashlight goes off in my head, and I was like, hey Chris, go get him. Get him.
Right.
Get him, Chris. Talk to him. Sick him.
Chris is our recruiter.
Get him.
I mean, he started the community group long before he was an employee, and
It's a passion. It just is.
grew it. And
I got a message from Killer Miller, the California player, who I guess had heard that I was talking to new players and helping get them used to the game and the competitive scene in Houston, even though that's not my job, but it's just what I naturally do, and it's really flattering to hear that feedback and people appreciate what I do.
Well, and Super Turbo is awesome. Like, that's what's really great is when we're growing a Super Turbo community, you're just bringing people to this amazing game that they might not have as much experience with, or might have missed. Or
A lot of these games are amazing. I know you're not a fan of Kangaroo, but
Kangaroo notoriously terrible.
but
It's not even that bad. It's just lazy. It's Donkey Kong but worse.
I always feel like I have three bosses. One, the free play employers of mine, and two is the community themselves, the gamers, and then three is the games. They're good. They're good. All I have to do is expose people to these games, and the games then will speak for themselves. So yeah, helping people see that is just a passion. It just is.
I do like to point out real quick one more thing about maybe Texas Showdown is all of us had our free play shirts on, but my favorite shirt was on me as I sat front.
It's shocking.
As I sat front row, and is the good original black and yellow free play shirt. That one is my all-time favorite right there, and it definitely makes me look slimmer.
We've been releasing shirts on kind of a torrid pace recently, and I wish I could tell you that was going to slow down, but we have our summer shirts
I've seen them. They look sweet.
Are coming. And then I'm going to have to actually figure out what still constitutes a uniform now, because we have all of our employees have like 12 or 15 or
That's true.
shirts.
Summer Night shirt right here. This is actually Summer Night's version 2.
Yeah. So that was this is a segue, but the reason that shirt was different is American Apparel actually went bankrupt.
Right.
In the middle of the summer, and we weren't able to source the shirts that we like. And now we're having, and it was later bought by the evil Gildan, which is like the evil, the evil t-shirt company in the t-shirt world. Because they just make a bunch of heavy crap, and it sucks and it never feels good when you wear it.
Now I just see like Mr. X from Streets of Rage just laughing over the t-shirt empire.
Well, and of course, American Apparel built their image on US made and stuff, and also weird ads and mild pornography. That was a strange company, but
we need to get to mild pornography later in this podcast.
Oh my god!
So they were all American made, and now Gildan is closing their thing and moving it all overseas and everything. So we're in the market for new shirts, but every time we try, it just doesn't work quite as well as the American Apparel 50/50 handspun cotton / polyester, whatever it is. It's amazing. Anyways, speaking of Street Fighter. There's a new Street Fighter collection coming out pretty soon.
30th anniversary edition coming out at the end of May.
Now, Capcom has made some pretty amazing promises here.
One in particular sticks in my mind.
Well, they've said that every one of these games is going to be, and they've said this. These are their words. Arcade perfect.
Ooh.
Not great. Not arcade perfect.
So they stuck an extra word in there that I'm sure will raise your lawyer ears. Arcade perfect gameplay.
Right.
They want to go ahead and add some caveats in there because it isn't going to be arcade perfect.
Well, yeah. So it's impossible, right? So they're making it for PS4, and I assume I'm going to pull it up, but I assume they're releasing it for for whatever the Xbox One is.
Yeah, Xbox One, PS4, and Nintendo Switch, and PC.
Nintendo Switch is getting it too.
Correct.
Okay, so there's no way. We're going to see, and maybe I'll be proven wrong, but there's no way really to make an arcade perfect game copy of what we had.
That's true, and it's equipment based.
Yeah, especially across 4 different platforms. Like that actually gives me even more concern, because they're going to have to optimize frame by frame gameplay for 4 consoles. Because the thing that makes arcades unique, and the thing that makes arcades really special, is not just the code of the game. It's running it through the specific chips that they originally used in the game. Because when you were making an arcade game, you'd have the programmer, and then you'd have the person that would actually have to figure out how to make it all work, the hardware guy. And he would design a PCB and design some way to get that code to look good on the screen, to function. And it was hand designed, basically. Like you're picking components off a shelf to try to design it. And then the arcade manufacturers got a little bit smarter, and they started making kind of systems that were base systems, and it started with like Atari System 1 even. And Capcom, of course, had their CPS2 board set, which is very popular, what Super Turbo ran on. But these games were made for that hardware. The only way you're ever going to truly replicate it perfectly, I mean, because the sounds, everything is made possible through that hardware. And anything else is going to be emulation. And they know it's, I mean, of course it's going to be emulation. They're trying to emulate these old chips. But to optimize and to get arcade perfect frame by frame gameplay across 4.
Well, and with PS4 has its controller input lag. LCD screens have their visual lag. Even the best on the market still doesn't reach up to the CRT levels of just almost lagless play.
So, but that said, people are excited about this.
Yes, well, I mean, the promise of at least arcade perfect gameplay is, even though that seems weird, like it still hasn't been done on a home version after 30 years or something like that.
Right. So let's talk. I mean, they released Super Turbo in a bunch of different collections and a bunch of different forms. We were talking about it earlier. Was it Dreamcast got a Super Turbo, or was it Saturn?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they
Dreamcast.
both did.
Yeah.
Technically, they both did. Saturn, along with PS2 or PS1, they had the Street Fighter Collection series. Dreamcast got the actual Grandmaster Challenge. So, Dreamcast is considered
Grandmaster Challenge is the Japanese name for Super Turbo.
Yes, Super Turbo. Yeah,
and that's the one that's considered the best amongst the ports. Is the Dreamcast one.
Yes.
Later, they released Super Street Fighter 2 HD Remix on the 360 and PS3. That level of generation, that level of systems, and that one had famously like modified gameplay. Some people liked the modification, some people didn't. Ultimately, we ended up going back to the old arcade games like we always do.
Right. And yeah, that's so interestingly enough, the very first port of Super Turbo was on 3DO.
Oh man,
I don't know.
Do you have that one, Mike?
I don't have that one.
No,
I don't have that one. Yeah.
Alec Featherstone had it at the Freaks and Geeks, our friends out there in Denton.
Yeah.
I definitely saw it, but
I didn't even think
can't
of that.
believe Mike didn't buy it that day.
That would be cool.
He bought half the store that day. It was insane.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So yeah, it came out on PlayStation, came out on Saturn as part of the Street Fighter Collection. And then Dreamcast got its own dedicated release, and that's the one that people think is as close as possible to the arcade.
It almost always has some sort of tweak, some sort of like fix. We fixed Dawson not having a super reversal. There's some sort of like button input change. There's always something. They never actually like just give you the straight arcade gameplay, which is what they're promising with this 30th anniversary edition. And if the timing is proper if they manage to get the timing right, at least relative to equipment notwithstanding, relative to the gameplay, then that's as good as I could hope for. They're also promising online play. You hope for decent online play, but I've never seen it good. So.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, netcode is hard. It's
hard.
It's just whether or not you throw millions of dollars at it or not. There are plenty of massive game publishers that just don't seem to get it right.
Well, and you just can't.
Right.
I don't know. With your background and is Counter-Strike, right?
Yes.
You play online and you play a LAN version. It's just different. It's always different.
Right. Well, and that's. It's kind of interesting because in Counter-Strike, you never took the online matches seriously.
Right. And it's the same with Street Fighter.
Even at the highest levels, it was still just practice for the eventual tournament where you'd all bring your computers, network up, and get your pings down to like 10 instead of 100, which was a good connection at the time. But that's millisecond. You're talking about reasonable delay there. And yeah, it's a good point to talk about the input delay, right? So on these modern consoles, you're plugging in USB controllers normally into a system that's then going to actually process and convert it to a signal that it can use, which adds delay. And then, it goes to an LCD, which notoriously have substantial delay. Even the best, even these very, very good high-end $1,000 20-inch gaming screens, still a little bit of delay.
It's shocking. It's shocking to think about how good the CRTs function in that way. There is processing, but it's so
I mean, it's so minute. It's basically the CRT is basically taking a signal and blowing it up, and I mean, it's almost like putting a magnifying glass in many ways on what's coming out of the arcade game, and the LCD is actually has a little computer that processes what it gets and then displays it how it's being told, which happens very fast, but it still takes a little bit of time.
Right. And when you're dealing with games with as critical of timing as Street Fighter and as Counter-Strike, then you notice immediately.
So that's the thing. I thought I knew Street Fighter 2 until I saw the really good players play, and just the adjustments that they're making at the frame level is mind-blowing. Like, and it's extremely important at the high end to get that right. And so Capcom recognizes that's why they're promising this. That's right. I mean, so Capcom released Hyper Street Fighter 2 to the arcades as its anniversary release. Yeah. No one really likes it.
I don't like it.
I do. I like it.
You literally have a shirt with every Street Fighter game on it.
I mean,
I mean, where does it fall on your pantheon of games that you like?
Yeah.
I know you like Ultra the best.
What's next to Super Turbo over there?
This one?
Ultra Street Fighter, the Switch game, Ultra Street Fighter 2.
Ultra.
Yeah. Okay, so then that one came later.
Again, that one has tons of changes. That one has like 8 different versions of Akuma that are released that are all broken. It's
so that was actually, but that was Capcom's
last year too.
Recent attempt, and I think that's what caused this kind of focus on Arcade Perfect, because there was a pretty big backlash against Ultra that was just, why did you make changes? Why is this game not the original game?
Why are you always making changes? Right. Yeah.
There was one thing I liked about Ultra, and that was you can make your own color on the character. I did like that part. So,
well,
yeah, you can make your own colors.
That does change.
I think it's part of the sweetness of Super Turbo that I get to constantly make fun of Michael Beltran for choosing Sagat in his New York Giants colors. Oh my god.
So
you just be lucky that I'm not making fun of it being DeAndre Jordan's colors.
We were all really excited when the Wii, whatever they called it, Street Fighter 2 came out. We thought it was going to be interesting, fun, and it very quickly, like, I remember all of our employees rushing out and buying it. Everyone was really excited about it, and it just slowly cratered.
It didn't bring a lot of new players to the scene, which is what ultimately we hope for the 30th anniversary edition. Right. Is just to get more players. But there are a couple of broken characters introduced. Violent Cannon. What's the Ryu one?
Evil
Ryu.
Yeah, right. They're
just broken.
That's right.
It's if it's a tournament, you need to immediately ban them.
Right.
Although, why would you ban them? Like, we already got the arcade, so instantaneously you just go right back to the arcade, and it is a waste of our time. So that game didn't fulfill any of our hopes, and that's why they're promising arcade perfect gameplay, because again, that's what we've been asking for 25 years.
It's just Xbox One, PS4, Nintendo Switch. That is a lot of work. I mean, and Capcom, in their defense, is spending a lot of money trying to get this right, because I mean, everyone still loves Street Fighter. They know everyone loves Street Fighter, and they need to find a way to monetize that, because they can't just keep selling. They don't make the CPS2 board sets anymore. They can't actually give anyone Arcade Perfect. They can't. I mean, that would be really interesting. Is if they try to make a mini console version of Street Fighter 2.
Yeah, if they can get Arcade Perfect gameplay, they can introduce this game as it's supposed to be, as close as they can get it. Because honestly, that's not a good faith effort if you're updating the game and improving it with broken characters that make it unplayably bad. That's not introducing it to new players. Bringing as close as you can get with all of your modern technology to the perfection that they created in 1993. That's a worthwhile endeavor.
Right.
They're adding money to tournaments around the nation to try and get people to play the game as well. That's cool.
Right, they're going to run a tournament series, which of course immediately makes us say, "Oh, cool, that's going to be really interesting." And then of course we forgot it's just going to be on a PlayStation.
Right? It's going to be on the PS4.
Well, I mean, it's kind of. I find it kind of crazy to just even conceptualize going to a tournament to play Street Fighter 2, and then having a PlayStation 4 and an LCD. And then it's going to draw a big, huge frame around this thing and have a little square inside that's the actual game that we're playing.
Right.
When
You can actually play the game,
Yeah,
the real game.
when Super Turbo is a relatively plentiful game out in the world, the real one, the original arcade.
If you're somewhere out there, pick up Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Edition on PS4 or whatever. Give it a try. Learn to love a beautiful game, and you'll see that frame that indicates that this isn't quite the original.
Right.
And then know that Free Play Arcade has the original, and it is running, and it is perfect, and it's beautiful, and there are tons of local players right now today. And they're playing it.
Right. Well, and it was actually it's really cool. And this is the most interesting side effect of the candy cabs. Young people approach them with this awe. Like they don't really understand it, and then they sit down and they play. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, I feel like Street Fighter 2 is making a better connection with teenagers and those younger people, because it's on. We have it at Free Play now on a candy cab, and I fought the candy forever, right? Mm-hmm. I was against it, and in many ways, I think that is really helping introduce people to Street Fighter 2. I watched yesterday early, right after we opened, like a family of 4, mom, dad, 2 kids that were probably 12 and 14, walk right to the candy cab and then spend like 20 minutes playing Street Fighter together. And I know that would never happen on a Big Blue, and I definitely know that's never going to happen on a PlayStation 4 like setup, right? If we just so that's kind of there's that purist in me that thinks about it's kind of robbing the experience. But yeah, if they have arcade perfect gameplay, it could grow the player base to come play the real thing.
Right.
And that's the hope. Okay, so they announced a tournament series. Do you remember?
I know the one that I care about.
Okay, so they're doing a Super Turbo at CEO in Daytona Beach, Florida.
At least
coming.
I think it got announced yesterday. So they added $7,000 to the prize pool. That's insane.
So yeah, and Capcom has been. I mean, they've been talking to a lot of major tournaments in this last 8-12 months, trying to find ways to do this, because that's a primary marketing point. If they get in that tournament, if they get some players that want to play that version, they're going to go buy it and they're going to sell more copies. Mm-hmm. So that's good and all. I do wonder. I mean, I'm still just trying to get over going to a professional tournament for Street Fighter 2 and then playing on a LCD on a PS4 with a frame around it. So maybe it'll work. Maybe it's going to be good. Maybe it'll grow the player base. It will not be arcade perfect. We can guarantee that. It'll be as close to arcade perfect as they're willing to make it.
Right.
Which could be close. We don't know.
Right.
We haven't played it yet. But Capcom is really, really trying to figure out a way to capitalize on Street Fighter 2. Which is, they were really interested in us. They, gave us some money. They gave us some different things. And some general support while we were growing our Super Turbo community. And then, of course, we started playing on candy cabinets. And, playing a game that Capcom can't sell on a Sega candy cabinet is not a great way to really get them involved, because, A, they're a business. Long term, they're not going to be able to make any money off that. So it's cool to see money being injected into a Super Turbo tournament. Are they running 3 different tournaments on 3 different games?
That's correct. Well, they're adding prize money to 3 different tournaments across 3 different times and locations. So they're getting I believe the SoCal Regionals are getting a $7,000 prize pool added to Alpha 3. Is that right?
So here, we have SoCal Regionals are going to have Alpha 3.
Right. So they're getting a big boost there.
And then
Canada Cup is getting a Third Strike big pot boost. And Canada Cup is also having the Tournament of Legends there, the Street Fighter Super Turbo gathering. So they will already have a big Super Turbo presence.
And I guess that's so maybe this is a better way to phrase what's irritating me about this. Canada Cup runs a Third Strike tournament, right? Normally.
I think all these run them normally.
And they're going to instead replace what they were normally going to run on original hardware.
Oh, with the PS4. That's correct.
With the PS4.
Yeah.
So Capcom is paying them to change their... and that, to me, is just a little irritating to think. Now, if they were running Super Guns already, right, it was already going to be bringing your fight stick. But it's just... to me, it's a little. It perverts the.
I wonder if it's going to be on
CRTs.
Does a PS4 even run off a CRT?
No, it's HDMI only. So you'd have to. I mean, I could make you.
You just convert it back to CRT.
Convert the
just more
signal
lag
down and just make it worse. But yeah, it will.
You have to play off the Twitch feed. You turn around and watch the Twitch feed and hit the buttons.
Oh man!
A minute later.
I guess that's the thing. Re-releases like this have a good place in growing the player base and keeping it modern, because not everyone could literally have a Super Turbo in their bedroom. You have to have something, right?
What are you talking about?
But not everyone could. They made lots of them, but not that many. It's much easier to print a disc and sell it for a PS4. And if it does grow Street Fighter, that's a good thing. What do you think about the online play? So they're promising online play for Super Turbo, for Hyper Fighting, which is, to me, that sounds really cool, because Hyper Fighting is kind of a bizarre, interesting version of Street Fighter that is totally popcorny and awesome.
Yeah, I like it.
I really like that one.
So being able to really play that in a potentially good version is awesome. And so we were talking earlier, do y'all still do Fightcade regularly, or yes or no?
I don't. I haven't.
So Fightcade is a emulator that actually has decent netcode, pretty good netcode.
For what it is?
For what it is, yeah. And
I'm a Dawson player. I'm a reaction player.
To
that
connect.
means I can't deal with any amount of lag. Like I have to react. Super Turbo is already fast. We're running on Turbo 3. It's going pretty much as fast as possible. I have a couple frames to react, and if you give me 5 frames of lag and a couple of frames to react, well, guess what? I can't react at all. So I can't. I'm sorry, I can't.
We had a little Street Fighter 5 side tournament during our big Super Turbo event.
The good news is, like when I play Dalsum out in the wild, people are frustrated by him because they don't get any practice in reality against Dalsum, because you can't react online, so therefore he's unviable online. And then here I come, I'm playing a top tier character that you just can't even touch online.
No, I was messing around with Street Fighter 5 in preparation for that side tournament we ran during our Super Turbo event.
And 5 is different because it's totally built with lag in mind.
I loved it online because everyone I thought that I had a better connection than, I was going to win no matter what. And it was awesome because I could just spam fireballs and you could tell that their timing was slightly off, and it just start drilling them.
It's so bad when you see like the fireball go like this and it pops back there.
It was
like you're playing Rainbow Edition.
It was a lot of fun in terms of how broken it was, and just, I mean, being able to exploit having a nice, because I was playing it here with our nice uber business connection and just destroying kids online. And you get the rage quits. It was amazing. I haven't done anything like that. So bringing a professional, being able to play Hyper Fighting online, if they get the players, that's going to be really fun. Although
I'm encouraged about all of that, like introducing new players to the games. That's a worthwhile thing. I'm happy for that. I'm happy that it is as close to arcade perfect as they can get it. I'm assuming it will be.
Right.
Yeah.
Saying that they're going to deliver arcade perfect means I really, really hope that they're super confident in their ability to deliver this, and to get as close as possible, because making that promise, would just be crazy if they weren't close. Mm-hmm. So it should be close. It better be close.
It was in writing. It's on their video.
So so then we're gonna have online of Hyper Fighting, Super Turbo, Alpha 3, and Third Strike.
Yeah. Sorry, Alpha 2.
So yeah, and Alpha 2 is Alpha 2 and Alpha 3. There's a big debate in the Street Fighter community, like which one should be the one, and then they each will fight about which one's broken in different ways and get really mad at each other.
The answer is both. They're both broken.
But yeah, they're both beautiful games that are not Street Fighter, are not Super Turbo. And so Alpha 3 got the netcode. I think it's kind of interesting that that you can't have all of them online. I wonder if it's a actual limitation, or they just are worried about not having any players for all of these games. So the collection includes Street Fighter, the original Street Fighter, where then everyone will play once, laugh at, and then not play ever again.
Right. Just uppercut Sagat one time, watch him die, and play it again, uppercut him one more time, watch him die one more time, and then you're done.
So, and yeah, then I'll have Street Fighter 2, which is another same thing. They'll play it and never play that again. Champion Edition, which I guess has some supporters.
Particularly in South America.
Okay.
I'm not sure why, but they love them some Champion Edition.
Some slow molasses.
They like to just like Psycho Crusher across the screen over and over again, because that was famously like auto cross up and near unblockable and did like a quarter damage on block stun. It was ridiculous.
So that's actually, are there any known bugs in Super Turbo?
So
because I'm kind of wondering, because I was just thinking,
I have heard reference to an O Zangief throw glitch in the Super Turbo version, so the American version that we don't even play.
Oh, yeah, okay, that's true.
I've never seen it myself.
So it'll be interesting to see though, if the glitches on these games survive.
There's a very bizarre one, single player only, playing with Sagat against the CPU Zangief. If you throw a tiger knee and a low tiger shot, it crashes the game.
So,
and then you call over the free play bartender and be like, the game isn't working, and they're just confused. They don't know what's going on.
How did you break this game?
Right.
No. So that's what I'm wondering though. Like, is there going to be a line for Capcom when they say arcade perfect? Because the original
that's interesting. Yeah. Will it crash?
Will it crash right there? And if it doesn't,
that is now the first thing I'm going to play.
Right. Because I was thinking about Street Fighter 2, which the original Street Fighter 2 is notoriously buggy. It has all sorts of weird things where you can the handcuff bugs and stuff and drag the other player around. I wonder if they're going to include that. Because they're promising arcade perfect gameplay, or if they're going to actually go fix them, which would be a lot of work. So I don't really know. That'll be interesting.
I mean, it's been said that those glitches in the original Street Fighter 2 are supposed to be in it. So if you can do it, great.
They definitely should. Yeah.
All right. So there's CE. There's hyper fighting, which we were just talking about. Really cool, fast, a little bit more basic, not as pretty, but just really a fun,
in my personal opinion,
approachable.
That's the second best version of Street Fighter 2, and considering how much I love Super Turbo, that is saying a lot. It's a very good version of it.
Right. And then the original Super Street Fighter 2, when they introduced Cammy and everything,
and brought it back to molasses speed,
and then slowed it down. Yeah, we talk about that in our game of the week for Street Fighter 2, because it makes no sense, and it was really irritating because Free Play actually has 2 Super Street Fighter 2s in its collection purely because people mislisted them online. We have 2 just regular Supers that we'll never do anything with because they were listed as Super Turbo. They came in. I started fighting about returning it, and of course it's just eventually not worth the time, not worth the effort, and so we just have them. Then Super Turbo, which does get the online fighting, arcade perfect, with the glitches. We'll see. Street Fighter Alpha, which some people still prefer Alpha 1. There's like one person in the world that thinks Alpha 1 is the one.
I liked it because I could just carry my Super Turbo game over straight.
Right. Well, yeah, Alpha. I
just close my eyes, pretend it's Super Turbo, because it's so close in release time to Super Turbo that it's very similar.
Alpha 1, I felt really good about, my abilities, right?
Right.
It seemed really approachable, and it's,
my
of course,
scrubbiness got me into the top 5 of Tuesday Night Fights. Jeremy Withers got second.
It's broken in a lot of ways, but I thought it was fun. And then they get Alpha 2, Alpha 3, then they get the Street Fighter 3s. Does anyone play anything on Street Fighter 3 that's not Third Strike?
I saw Second Impact being played at iFix Machines, who hosted our New York qualifier.
Really?
So they were playing it for a laugh, Second Impact.
Because we technically have, I believe, the ability to put any of the Street Fighter 3s on the floor, but we'd be run out of town if it wasn't Third Strike.
Correct. Yes. You want to roll out of Versus City and put the Street Fighter Second Impact on it and just prepare to get massacred online.
Which is really, it's really sad that, because Street Fighter 3, I had no real arcade experience with Street Fighter 3. Just because I don't even know why.
It was like late 90s.
Yeah,
it was a crowded marketplace at that point. That's the same time Marvel vs. Capcom 2 came out and was dominating America. Also, it was at the height of like Tekken Tag's popularity.
And the
Midway sports games were hitting it really, really hard.
I was actually I got into competitive air hockey around that time, so maybe I just wasn't looking at that side of the arcade.
I actually also was in competitive air hockey at that time.
I was really into it. It was
shout out to Chuck the Puck if you're out there.
There was a year where air hockey had a really nice competitive group, and that was it was big in DFW too. Around
this is news to me.
Yeah, like 2000, 2001, 2002. That era, I don't know exactly, but yeah, there was decent prize pools. I had my own Well, I don't even know what it's called.
I don't either.
Paddle?
But I saw Chuck the Puck playing back in the day, and he had like a zone defense method. He would do this. I'm sure he can still do it somewhere, but he did this, and like the puck bounces in a triangle like this, and you have no idea when or where it's going to fly at you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, I used to. Yeah,
I'm that kind of nerd.
I remember in high school we were playing dollar games and $5 games. So you'd bet it. You'd put $1 out, and I was paying for my.
Quick reminder: gambling is illegal at Free Play
and not
Arcade.
allowed at Free Play, pursuant to the municipal ordinance that allows us to exist. Do not gamble at Free Play. But yeah, we used to at the old Cyber Zone at the mall.
I saw a Pac-Man air hockey game recently.
Here we go with the off-brand Pac-Man again.
Is it they have the 4-player one? Is it the one that just keeps feeding the pucks down from the side?
Yeah, there's like mini pucks and stuff.
Oh my
that
gosh,
come
yeah.
down.
I'm told it's impossible to fix. I'm told it's one of the worst because we're now to the point where we have every tech in the world will send, whenever we hire new techs, they'll send their applications, and I've been able to spend a lot of cool time with these guys who are arcade techs for other arcades, and that is one of the least favorite games in the world right now. Everyone of them that have one of those at their arcade hate it because those stupid little pucks get stuck and get eaten, and then the whole game breaks.
Oh no.
And plus air hockey is not exactly the most reliable anyways, so that was it is
Also,
a
you
thing.
get pucks flying across the arcade, smashing into people,
They're
and
really
or
small.
CRTs. Yeah.
Well, it has like a little divider to prevent them from getting high enough to like kill people because they start flying. And
They do.
but yes, Michael Beltran does like Pac-Man and all things. He's not a purist.
Well,
he'll
Not so much like original Pac-Man, but
he doesn't play Miss Pac. He plays.
but if Pac-Man 2 Electric Boogaloo is in your arcade, then he is there.
Oh man.
I do like that. What was the game? What was the version called that we ran the Ready Player One tournament on? Electric Cowboy.
Electric Cowboy, yeah.
Yes. Nice. All right. So Street Fighter 2 is getting Street Fighter is getting a big collection release. Street Fighter 4. What's the deal with Street Fighter 4? Because I just realized, hey, this covers
well,
one.
It's just a modern game,
Right,
So it came out a few
yeah.
years ago. It's not an It wasn't initially an arcade release. It actually got released in the arcades afterwards because of the groundswell of people saying, "Hey, this is Street Fighter's meant to be in an arcade. We're gonna actually make a custom arcade version of this, whether you make it or not." And then Capcom finally was like, "Okay, I guess there's a market. We're gonna go ahead and release it anyway."
Well, yeah, and I don't think any of those got released to the U.S., but a lot have been imported since.
Right.
And then of course a lot of people are using the Vulixes, knockoff Vulixes and stuff to run Street Fighter 4.
I saw that when I saw Street Fighter 4 because Street Fighter 5 did not get an arcade release at all. 4 I saw played, and it's well loved by the players of the era.
Well, and I don't mean to complain about Capcom this much, but how irritating is it that then they release the follow-up, their first big Street Fighter 5 second release, and they call it like Arcade Edition.
And there's no Arcade Edition? Or there's no arcade?
Like, it really, really upset me.
That could be 2 whole podcasts of railing against the market decisions of Street Fighter 5.
If there's no need for an arcade, why would they call their major release the Arcade Edition?
Just go back to the Ready Player One podcast and about why that's too good for arcade games. I don't know why people are paying homage to the greatness of arcade games to sell the fact that they hate arcade games. I don't understand that.
Well, and of course we do have the new great Raw Thrills fighting game that has been released, Injustice 2, the card game.
It's the first time that great and Raw Thrills have been combined in the same sentence.
Oh my.
Yeah, so I guess that's because we're a retro arcade, but we do keep abreast of the modern stuff being made because we curate and we sometimes bring in newer stuff.
Right, Sky Cursor.
Yeah, anything that's really good we love, and we're gonna eat it up. So yeah, Raw Thrills did release, and people like the fighting game community got kind of excited for a second. Without realizing how terrible it was about to be. And yeah, it's like a card. I'm pulling it up right now, but it's like a card arcade game.
I've seen it.
It's terrible.
No, anytime anybody releases a game that has an IP that you enjoy, you try and be hopeful, and then they do what you think they're going to do to it, and it's just so bad.
So let's see. We have 2 Raw Thrills games in
Yes.
free play.
Big Buck and
And
Target Terror.
Target
is that right?
Terror, yeah. It was Golden Tee somehow published?
Golden
or something?
Tee is in IT that.
Right, it is an IT.
It's not Raw Thrills.
But yeah, okay, yeah, it has not been touched by Raw Thrills. But yeah, we do have 2, and they're kind of our shames. But Target Terror Pro is probably one of the better in the last 20 years or so. Simple gun games, and we have games like House of the Dead and everything at our arcades, and of course Area 51. But Target Terror we need a Target style game, and that was unfortunately one of the better ones. And it was, I think, Raw Thrill's very first game. So it was back,
It's 60 high scoreboards had me. I had to immediately confront the fact that our 2 Raw Thrill games would have more high scores involved than the entire rest of all of our arcade games combined.
Yeah.
So I had to abandon the high scores immediately.
They're really big on throwing that in there. All right, so the re-release, we're a little concerned. We're tense. We don't know on this Street Fighter.
I'm hopeful for more players. More players.
That is going to be...
I would be happy to sit down and show you how to throw fireballs back and forth.
I will...
Probably have to join me out at the arcade, but that's okay.
The ads write themselves, right? We're going to be making sure that as soon as it's released, we'll probably run a Super Turbo tournament not long thereafter. We'll have a bunch of things that are saying, come play the real thing at Free Play Arcade. And it's... if it increases the players, that's worth it, right? That's good.
Yeah, I think so.
A good analogy you could probably do here is, okay, hey, listen to this cool song on MP3 file format, right? And you like it. Well, here, how about listening to it on old school vinyl?
Lossless audio, yeah.
Yeah.
And then here, and then, ooh, it's so much better on vinyl,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that is the
That is
analogy.
a good analogy. Of course...
Does that mean we're the hipsters of the video game industry now?
Well, I mean, I've been criticized a lot for being too much of a purist. But
I was not the purist when I started at Free Play. When I started going to Free Play Arcade, of course I just fell out of the arcade scene. But getting back into it and learning to play Super Turbo at Free Play and learning all those games, like getting used to the CRT, the lagless play,
right.
And I always had it. I always had it back in the late '90s, early 2000s. We played on CRTs. Even when we moved to consoles, we went to CRT.
Right.
But now it's just like unplayable. Like even Tekken 5, is on an LCD, right?
No,
It's not.
that's a CRT.
It is. Is it really? Okay.
Yeah. It's a flat. It's because remember when they were slowly going from CRTs to the LCD TVs.
Gotcha.
They had the flat front TVs for a while, and so yeah, that's a flat CRT, but it is still a real CRT. And in fact, that was when I was deciding whether or not we're going to put that out or even buy it, because we now have Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection,
which is the only
Arlington.
version of that I've ever seen.
Yeah, that is there were so few of those cabinets made. It's super rare, and it's a good version of Tekken. People like it.
It's not Tekken 4.
And it does have a CRT, so that was actually pretty important to me. Not that we won't ever have LCD games. We have the Japanese Battle Royale at our Richardson location,
right? And it's designed for it.
But yeah, there's a big difference playing a game that was designed for a CRT on a CRT versus playing a game that was designed for an LCD.
Especially when you play a game with the speed of Super Turbo, you start to know. And someone pulled out Tekken Tag and a Super Gun at Texas Showdown and had me playing that. And man, on the CRT, like you immediately, if you're competitive with it,
Right.
And now I just don't know how to. I wouldn't want to go back. Like again, if you're doing things that are critical timing, why would you want to introduce 5 frames of lag or whatever it is?
Right. Well, and that's I play the crappier versions of Street Fighter. I sometimes even we have different emulation things that we use to try to find new games, or like at my house I'll pull up, especially like the very obscure stuff that'll come up for sale that I've never seen before. I'll try to see what the heck that game was. And I still sometimes just play Street Fighter emulated for fun. Like I sometimes play Fightcade just to mess around with. But yeah, I can never take it seriously at all. And I think that's kind of whether being this hardcore and pure is being snobbish, or if it's just really trying to make sure. Well, for us, it's about giving the best products to our customers.
It is the best. It is the best.
Right.
It just is the best. I don't know. like you said, MP3. You can discover your song and discover a true love for the song, and then and when you hear it on vinyl, when you hear that perfect format, it just
maybe that's one of the
special.
things that people get irritated by is when I'm acting like a hardcore purist, and I'm not criticizing like their home stuff. Like if you're using certain things at home, such as, for example, if you're playing this re-release at your house,
my super gun that I took to Houston because I couldn't tote an entire arcade machine in the car. Like,
right. I mean, that
you don't have access to it. You play it in the way that you can.
But at the scale that free play is, and in a commercial atmosphere, it's really important to have the good real thing. And I have actually that's an interesting thing we didn't get into, and we're running a little low on time, but there is some concern that arcades, and I'm actually happy they're going to put that border and stuff on it, because there was some concern
that aspect ratio.
Arcades were going to try to pass this off as a real version.
Oh my god!
And I did see.
You know what? That's going to happen.
I did. Well, certainly we'll see some stuff like. I mean, some of the like South America arcades that just do all these crazy things. Sometimes really cool, really unique things, but they also are very notorious for throwing consoles into arcades and trying to trick consumers. We'll see some interesting photos of an LCD and everything, and it's weird. It's different, and it's we could never run this game, right? We could never really put it out in the arcade, so it's hard for us as Street Fighter players then to get behind it, since we have such immediate access to the real thing, and we can just hop on and play it.
I will be happy to show any PS4 players that are getting access to the game for the first time through the PS4 what it's like to play on the arcade.
So yeah, that's
open arms.
All right. I won't dive into a whole nother subject. We're running low on time. This was the Free Play Podcast. We talked Texas Showdown. We talked the re-release of Street Fighter and our concerns. And for now, at the Free Play Lab, we're signing off.
Bye. See ya, folks.